Welcome back to your favorite podcast, Deac2Deac. On this episode, I had a chance to hear from Wake Forest Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion Fred Robbins. Fred shares his story of why he picked Wake Forest, what it was like to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, plus giving back to the community, and much, much more. Take a listen, and as always, go Deacs. So, Fred, man, great to catch up with you.
Always.
So, everybody knows about your career at Wake and your time in the NFL and as a Super Bowl champion and what you're doing with your nonprofit now. But let's kind of go back from the beginning and talk about, where you're from and how you grew up.
Okay. Well, born and raised here in, Pensacola, Florida. Grew up, with a family of educators. My parents, aunts, uncles. We all stayed in the same, neighborhood. Even my grandma was a teacher, man. So I was always built around, education. My mom and dad, went to college at Florida A&M. My dad played sports, and so that's why I got, a sports background. But the education piece is already always instilled, first and foremost. Just growing up in a household of my dad and my uncles being former athletes, so I kind of learned at an early age, the important things of if I wanted to go on, to play college growing up, and so that's pretty much how I was, born and raised and bred, just always being exposure. And just raised in the traditional Southern educated Christian background. My grandfather was a deacon in the church, and he was the patriarch of the family. So every Sunday, man, it's like a Sunday, Sunday school, church, so but they're just having those principles and values, man, pretty much how I was raised.
So when did you get introduced to sports? I know there's you're from Pensacola, the home of uh Emmett Smith, Michelle Snow, and so many other great athletes from that area. So when did that happen to you?
I always wanted to play, football, man. But back then, I was a big kid, so when I was probably 5 years old, I would have had been playing with the teenagers, but I started playing baseball, so I started playing t-ball like when I was around 5 or 6 years old, and I just played that on through, through high school, through senior year, and I first started playing football when I got to high school in ninth grade. In ninth grade, I played. It was different, just wasn't kind of like what I thought it was, what it would be. I didn't play my 10th grade year, but I had a growth spurt, that year. But then I went back out my 11th grade year and played. And then I think that's when, football I really fell in love with football. And, I was starting to get, a lot of attention as a junior. I had my grades up. And so I think, just getting that attention and, it just furthered me. It just gave me something to build on and work even more, going forward through my senior year. And so my senior year, it was no doubt in my mind that this is something that I really wanted to do. I worked, extremely hard, in the off season and the summers, along playing two sports of baseball, which is, it wasn't difficult, but it was just challenging. Like my favorite athletes at the time were, Bo Jackson and Dion, so they was playing two sports. So I was like, hey, maybe I could be the next, two sports star. But by my senior year, man, I knew it was something I wanted to do, and just having that educational background from my parents and my dad being a former athlete, he just kind of let me know the do's and don'ts, if I wanted to go to college.
So when did you know that you could play at that next level in college? Because you didn't take that traditional route that a lot of uh, football players do in terms of playing since they were 9, 10 years old. You started what some would consider late. And so when did that kick in that, hey, I could do this at the next level?
I think probably like after like around my junior year when I started getting noticed a lot. Like I said, I had my grades, so the grades wasn't an issue, wasn't a problem. And I was athletic. I was probably one of the most athletic at the school, especially being two sport athlete. But sometimes when your coaches pull you aside and bring you in office having meetings, which is solo, not just when you do something good in practice, but when it got to that level, and I started having more and more of those meetings, like, hey, keep working, man. You could play on Saturday. We believe in you. And I think once you got that affirmation, it's different from a coach just saying, hey, good job, good tackle, to he pulling you aside during the middle of school day and have a private one-on-one conversation about your leadership skills, of what he's seeing you, and how he's so proud of where I started to where I am now, and what could be. And I think once you start hearing that from not only your parents and people who supposed to say that to you, but to other people who recognize what you're doing, that gives you sort of a confirmation, like, hey, man, wow, this could be something I really want. And I think that's what kind of propelled me, because I went to a school that probably wasn't as good. I mean, my senior year, we only won one game, in high school. And I think even just having not a lot of success in high school, people still believing that you can go on. And then scouts started coming around, and for spring ball, and people with college jerseys and polo shirts the coaches wearing, specifically come to see you practice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think going into my senior year, that kind of propelled me, like, okay, you know what? Look, the ball's in my court. It's all on me. Everything is working in my favor. How am I not going to, mess this up? And so that's when it really hit me.
Well, what people also may not know, you talk about being a two-sport athlete, is, you're also a really good basketball player. And, your dad was a great basketball player as well. Talk a little bit about that, because Deacon Nation, I want to let you know, Fred Robbins can hoop. He can hoop now. He'll he can play. So talk about that basketball influence from your dad, and the role he played in helping establish that discipline and hard work.
Yeah, it all starts at home. I think that's where it started for me, is just having that discipline at home. And one of the things my dad did that I just when I look back, is he allowed other coaches to coach me. It wasn't just like he was just hands-on, do it my way or no way. You know what I mean? He gave us little, his communication skills, when I got home, but he allowed, other coaches really coach, and kind of tell me, what to do, what not to do. And just learning that basketball, skill set, it transfers over to football. Some football things, transfer over to other sports. And I think being able to multifaceted in different sports, it just gave me an edge up. And also, my dad just taught me, from his mistakes when he was in college, what he should, wish he would have done, and he didn't want me to go down the same path. So it was also, not only did I hear it at school with my coaches, but even when I got home, even on the weekend. So football was like sports, and the sportsmanship and the discipline was something that was embedded every day, no matter if I was at school or at home. It's something I heard consistent. And one thing that was always constant, whether it was my dad or coaches or anyone else, is like, look, hey, you got to be disciplined. You know what I mean? And you got to be held accountable, and you got to make some sacrifices. So there's a lot of sacrifices I had to make, with some of the friends who didn't play sports, who like go hang out at the mall, or, on Fridays after school. They go do pep rallies, but I'm getting ready for a game in a locker room, so, it's a lot of sacrificing that has to be made. But, one thing I never did deter from my goal, which was, to go to college.
Well, coming out of high school, like you said, you had a growth spurt, you're doing well. Uh, with all of the options you had as a kid coming out of Florida, hotbed of high school talent, what was it that drew you to Wake Forest?
I always wanted to, to get away, just get away from home. When I was in high school, senior year, we had a lot going on in the neighborhood, a lot of things going on in the city, and it just did different exposure. My parents always preached that, get out, get away from home, don't worry about us, we'll come see you. Whereas most everybody else is wanting to stay close to home, because their parents want to have, their hands-on experience. But, from my mom and dad who went to college, my dad being a former athlete, I learned from a student athlete what was best. Not as a dad wanting to be closer to his son, but my dad was preaching to me like, hey, from a student athlete point of view, right? And some of the mistakes he made. Look, hey, he went to Florida A&M. That's 2 hours down the road from Pensacola, where I'm from. So on the weekends, he'll make the drive home. You know what I mean? Hang out with his buddies and friends. And so, he didn't. I learned how to make those sacrifices from him. Hey, get away. And Wake Forest, was one of my last visits. Be honest, I was tired of traveling. But Wake Forest grew on me with Coach Caldwell and Coach Teryl Austin. Man, it was something different. When I went to other schools, it was like, hey, go out on the football field. I had my name and the number on the jumbotron, this and that, and it was all football related. But when I went to Wake Forest, like, hey, what do you want to major in? What do you see yourself, after you get done with Wake Forest? What do you see yourself 5-10 years from now? So, it reminded me of the same conversations I had at home with my parents. Always thinking ahead, not just thinking, for the next day or the next week, but like, where do you want your life to be? And Wake Forest reminded me of home just from that standpoint. And I was like, wow, this is the first college that on my visit that even asked me about education or my plans or my goals or my dreams. And my parents asked me that all the time. And so, and just being with Coach Caldwell and Coach Austin and Wake Forest just seemed like the perfect fit, man. And I remember, never forget that Sunday, I remember I got back home, my folks asked me how it was. Man, it was a great trip, great visit. And I remember I talked to Coach Caldwell tonight. I said, listen, hey, I want to go to Wake Forest. And, the rest is history.
Wow. So did you get homesick? I know the answer. I just want you to share it with Deacon Nation. I know where this is going.
Yeah, I did. I get homesick. It's because you got those itches where you want to go home and just to whatever. But being in North Carolina and you way down in Pensacola, just wasn't no weekend trip, no weekend getaway. But I tell you what, man, just being around you guys, man. We were all at some point homesick, but we all helped each other out, and I think. One of the things that I pride Wake Forest on is just forces you to grow up quick in a good way. You make friendships, you make bonds with people who you typically don't know. I mean, it's different. And when you go to college, growing up, you're pretty much in high school. You go to school with the same people you go to school with in elementary, middle school, unless somebody moves away or moves in. But pretty much those are your friends that you grew up with since you were, kindergarten. But when you get to college, man, it forces you to communicate. It forces you to, talk and network, and you hang around with other like-minded people, and we all in the same boat, So I think just that camaraderie that we built fast and quick. I mean, I think that helped a lot too, So. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, homesick at some point.
Now, if you had to, and going back to that time in your life, who are some of the people outside of football that helped you get through just that Wake Forest experience? Maybe academically, those things. Who are some people that you felt really helped you get through Wake Forest?
Just definitely my family, just understanding from the education standpoint, just kind of learning, as being a young African American male, the steps you need to take, be accountable, the leadership skills that I learned throughout, so that definitely took into effect. But at Wake Forest, you always had the coaches, who. One thing I loved about that was Coach Caldwell it wasn't just about football on the field. He was concerned a lot about off the field issues too, and just having that fallback where you can talk to him about anything. And he understood. He understood as a young black male, teenager, going off to college, whose parents are back home. So it wasn't just about football with him. That's what I love about it. Beth Hopkins was a great, person to communicate with. I mean, she definitely gave you from that woman's point of view too as well. So and just my older siblings. I had a cousin who played for the Braves for a little bit. So he was kind of giving me some advice from the sports side, the professional side. But I think this a lot of people had their hands in. And I was always willing to learn and to hear what people had to say and kind of take a mixture of of everything kind of applied to my life.
I want to throw a name out there to you, Fred, and I want to get your reaction. Marvin Mitchell.
Yes. Yeah, big
What did he mean to help in helping you get adjusted to Wake Forest, and kind of let people know who Big Marv is?
Big Marv was our academic advisor when we first got to Wake. But Marv really taught us a lot. Obviously because he played the game, so he was able to let us know from that player standpoint. Not really how hard or difficult, but the challenges you might face as a student athlete, what to do and what not to do. But also as a young black male, being at a private school like Wake Forest, that was a big adjustment. Just being in a public school through my whole life, and now you at a private institution, like a Wake Forest. What does that mean? What does that entail? How does that differ from any other college? And so, having guys who walked in your path, walked in your shoes before you, I mean, those are people that you want to listen to. And Marvin's one of those guys. Like I said, he played football, went to Wake, and so why not listen to him? I mean, he had some tremendous advice. And one thing I love about Marv, he was always up front. He didn't sugarcoat anything.
When you 6'6", 300 pounds, ain't no need to sugarcoat nothing.
Yeah, and he was honest, and
yeah,
it's something that we needed to kind of keep us grounded as young 18, 19-year-olds, who all come from different backgrounds. I mean, listen, we had guys from where, Florida, North Carolina, New York, Texas, Cali, guys, Ohio, guys from all over, right? But we meshed good, right? We meshed good, and Marv is one of those leaders, man, who, taught us how to mesh with guys. At some point, all I knew was Florida until I got, to North Carolina. I mean, all my family's from Florida. My mom's side is from Gainesville, so when I took vacations, I was just vacationing in Florida, and I didn't know anything about, how people grew up in North Carolina, how people grew up in Virginia, New York. We didn't have the social media where we can just pull up anything and see how those lifestyles are. So that was my first taste when I got to college, of seeing like how other people have grown up and how we had some similarities and differences, but doesn't mean, it's bad. You just learn it. It's a learning tool, right? Mm-hmm. And having guys like Marv and some of those other veteran guys used to come back, they kind of helped us, help me and everybody else, man, get through.
So what was it like playing for Coach Caldwell? You talked about the influence he had and how he took an interest in us as more than just football players, but as men and as professionals in our development as well. But what was it like to play for him as a player?
It was an honor, man, because, Coach Caldwell, he cared, he cared about you, he cared about your family. I mean, just sitting around campus, he'll let you know if you did something bad or what you need to work on, what you need to work on in practice.
He had a way of telling you. You're right about that.
Yeah, but he also like, hey, how's your family doing? Is everything okay back home? You know what I mean? How are you doing? How's the transition? So it wasn't just about the X's and O's and winning football games. And one thing he always told us in our first meeting was like, look, hey, I guarantee you when you leave Wake Forest, you'll be a better man, right? And, it won my parents over. And it definitely, won me over too as well. But he taught us, man, it's more to life, it's more to football than just winning football games, right? You build relationships, you build, a legacy. Of course, we all want to win. I mean, no doubt. But, at some point, we got to learn about each other off the field. It just can't be, hey, I know, Kevin Smith, he's a linebacker, man. I know he likes to come down and hit him hard and in ISO drill. But it had to be to the point that I got to know you. Learn your family, learn how you were raised, how you were brought up, and that'll make you play harder and better for someone on Saturdays. And I think as young teenagers, 18-year-olds, we didn't realize that as freshmen, but through the years, we've learned like how to appreciate that. And now I know, hey, Kevin had a hard week, Fred had a hard week. Guys can understand that and might know why. Okay, well, that's probably why he had a bad practice, and let's help lift him up off the field. He'll play better on the field. And that's what Coach Caldwell taught us. It's not so much on the field, but look, hey, let's love each other off the field. Let's make each other better, learn each other, understand each other, and so that's what I got from Coach Caldwell.
So let's talk about your college career for a little bit. 4-year starter, what was your best game ever?
Oh, man. I think, probably my best game.
You got a lot to choose from.
I think, stat-wise, I think my best game was our bowl game in Aloha Bowl in Hawaii. I think stat-wise, that was my best game as far as like, sacks or whatnot. But I think one of the funnest games, 2 games come to mind. When we beat Northwestern, when Northwestern was ranked, pretty high. I think they were in the top 10, maybe in top 5, I think. Both years we played and beat those guys. And when we beat Georgia Tech, I think beat Georgia Tech to get to the Aloha Bowl.
Yeah.
I think those are some of my best memorable games I can remember. The fun games, and I think because the Georgia Tech, we had nothing to lose. It was all out,
Yeah.
And I think that that's definitely was a game. But I think also just beat Northwestern. Northwestern, they were ranked high. They were running through their division, and they came down to Wake Forest, man. We put a spank on them back-to-back years, man. And I think that's kind of like really brought attention to us. And we were ranked at one point after we beat them. I think we were ranked in the top.
Yeah, we ended up the second time, I think it was.
Yeah, the second time, I think we were ranked like in top 20. So I think that really what propelled our class, and that was kind of like a highlight for us.
So your senior year comes around, you're finishing the Aloha Bowl, and you get back. What was it like when you got that call that you were drafted? Because you didn't have this huge draft party and all of this attention drawn to yourself. So what was it like when you got that call to get drafted?
When we got back from Aloha Bowl, things happen fast. Talk to the agent, meet with him, you like him, sign with him. He was a great agent. Still my agent to this day. Got and learned him, from Deac Clark, kind of recommended. Deac at the same agent as well. Then went on to the Senior Bowl, man, and I think that's when, my stock rise. I think that's really what propelled me, because back then, just guys playing at Wake Forest, it was like the guys they really don't play anybody. They haven't had success, playing against top-notch teams. If they do, they get beat, because back then it was Florida State was running through our division. Carolina, had some pretty good teams, and Virginia had some good teams. So, I think playing against some of those guys in the Senior Bowl helped elevate my stock. It was eye-opening for me too, because I got to play against some SEC schools and some top-tier guys, and it just gave me a boost of confidence even more. And then just doing the training leading up to the draft, and I met with a bunch of NFL teams, and I thought for certain I was going to be a Carolina Panther. I met with them numbers. They coached me in the Senior Bowl. I met with them a number of times, and they were like, "Hey, we love it. We're going to draft you." And all of a sudden, I never spoke to Minnesota once, and all of a sudden I get a call, Dennis Green, and he said, "Hey, sit back. We're going to draft you." So, but that was exciting. I mean, it was just something that it's a real moment. And I remember getting that call and just thinking back from day one when I first started to where I was now. A young kid, started out 14 years old playing football, and I look back to how far I've become, like all the sacrifices I made. It was for that moment, and it's something that, you just don't take for granted, and wouldn't change anything for the world if I had to do it. I'd do it all over again the same way, but it was just a surreal feeling.
So did you anticipate it being as high as a draft pick it was with the second round? Was that something you saw coming?
Well, I was always told that I'd be, like a second round guy, but I had some good stats at the combine, and I was a big guy. I think in my pro day I ran like a 4.8, 320. And I think just being a big guy, being able to move, agile as I was, and having a good Senior Bowl and a good combine, at one point, people like, hey, you might slide late in the first round, but all goes, and that's when the business side kick in about the draft. It all goes to, what a team needs. But I was always told I'd probably be like a, mid to high second round guy, and that's where I ended up going.
So you get drafted by Minnesota, right? Special team. There was a lot of great players on that team, and as you said, Dennis Green had drafted you. Kind of talk about the environment you walked into and some of the veterans that helped you get acclimated to the NFL as a rookie.
Yeah, well, I mean, wow, Minnesota had some great teams, and they had just, came off the NFC Championship game when they lost to Atlanta Falcons. They had, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Robert Smith, John Randall, and John Randall was a guy, I watched plenty of film on him in college, but now it's like I'm in the locker room playing beside him, it was crazy. But, we had a veteran team, and they really taught me from day one, okay, look, college is fun, right? You have fun, all that. But NFL is a business, right? And so they helped me get acclimated to the lifestyle of the NFL, like everything that encompasses it. Putting your pads on, going out to practice is the easy part, but it's like all the other off the field issues you got to deal with. Okay, you got to learn how to talk to the media, right? You got to carry yourself. The camera, the eyes always going to be on you no matter where you go, right? You represent more than just yourself. You represent, an organization. And it's like, look, hey, we believe in you enough of your character, right, that we drafted you. You know what I mean? And so it's like you don't want to let anybody down. I don't want to let myself down. So I learned early on, in Minnesota, just what does professional mean? Not just how many sacks or tackles you get, but how do you present yourself as a because you're a role model now. I remember when I got drafted, man, kids in my neighborhood, screaming my name, yelling, you know what I mean? Fred made it to the NFL, so now, it's like everything I've done, I made them happy, you know what I mean? And I'm a role model, and I never ever want to let anybody down, man. I think that was my, one of the things I always told myself, and everybody that believed in me to get to this moment, everybody that helped me to get to this moment, I didn't want to let them down.
So you want to talk about being a professional and on and off the field. And you started doing that early in your career, and you had an opportunity come up in free agency. What made you decide to leave the Vikings and go to the Giants?
I love Minnesota. Minnesota was great. It was everything was going good. But I just felt I needed a change. I just felt I just needed a change of pace, change of scenery. And I was still in talks to stay with the Vikings. But then New York came. I think it was New York, Atlanta, and Houston. New York, Atlanta, and Houston. They were a team that really interested in me, and so I had a chance to go to New York first. And when I got off the plane, my agent said, "Look, hey, the deal is done. All you got to do is pass the physical." And it was a better deal than I would have got from any other team. And I was like, wow, New York, that's awesome. You know what I mean? And so went there, passed the physical, loved it. And New York is like the mecca of all NFL cities with the French, all the history, with the Giants. And so I thought about all that, and I was like, wow, this is where I want to be.
So you get to New York and you're playing with a great defense. I mean, you're playing with Michael Strahan, and then you guys picked up Barry Cofield and some other players on that defense. And you have a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and you get there. What was that experience like, playing for a Super Bowl championship team and one of the few teams that can say that you beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl? Kind of talk about that experience.
Yeah, man, that experience was awesome. Because my rookie year, we played the Giants in NFC Championship game, right? And we got whooped 41-0, and I was like, wow, it was so close. One game away from going to the Super Bowl. And guys always say, man, look, man, take advantage of the opportunity because you never know when it's going to come around again. And so when I got to the Giants And that year we went to the Super Bowl, they were kind of the same way. They were like, wow, that year we beat y'all when you were with the Vikings, we got beat, by the Ravens in the Super Bowl. So here it is now, almost 8 years later, right? We like, look, hey, we don't want to miss out on this opportunity, right? And so everything was just like to perfection, and it was like, look, hey, and it reminded me of and everybody was doubting us, to beat the Patriots, and it took me back to when we played Northwestern, right? Northwestern was, hey, they were the Big Ten. Hey, they running through the Big Ten. They're a top 5 team. Wake Forest don't have a chance to beat them. Come on, right? And I was like, wow. It took me like, hey, we whooped the top dog in college. Why can't we do the same thing here? And everybody had the same mentality, and everybody had the same mindset, And you think about how many times growing up you watched the Super Bowl, right? You getting the food list ready, what you go eat, the people are going to invite, your parents going to invite over, right? But now it's like, hey, I'm in the Super Bowl, like I'm here. You're practicing, you got, all your family and friends, and you were there, and so and it's a moment that you can't get caught up in it, right? And that's some of the best advice I got. I remember we played Tampa Bay. We played Tampa Bay in our first playoff game. And Derrick Brooks, linebacker from Tampa, and I think they were number 3 seed. And a lot of teams had Tampa picked to play New England. And I remember he helped me out after we beat them, and after we beat the Cowboys and the Packers. He gave me a call after the NFC Championship game, man. Congratulations, man. Bring another Super Bowl ring home to Pensacola. And I was like, man, what advice you got for me? Like, he said, man, don't get caught up in all the attractions, right? Stay focused. He said, have you someone that if somebody needs something, that's the go-to person. He said, focus on this opportunity, and that was some of the best advice I got, because without that, guys would have got caught up in the emotion, all the attractions and all the family and friends and all your relatives being there, man. It's something that guys would have got caught up in. But I knew, early on, like, hey, look, don't get caught up in that, and just winning the Super Bowl, beating undefeated Patriots was the icing on the cake. No one gave us a shot, but we all believed in each other as a team, man, and made it happen.
So what is it like to win a championship for a New York franchise? Because it's not the same. It's not the same everywhere.
No, it's not. I think, because New York is the Mecca, man. It makes you a break. In New York, there's no gray area. You know what? You either love or hate it. There's no, it's all right. He's okay. None of that. It's always, it's just love and hate. And I think the fact that we beat the Patriots, with the whole New York Boston rivalry and everything from the Yankees to the Red Sox to hockey to basketball, I just think that sports rivalry for those 2 cities, man, just meant the whole lot. But for New York, man, you think of all the history, all the other Super Bowls they had from that franchise, from Frank Giffords, to Lawrence Taylor's, you know what I mean, to all those guys that played before you. You were part of that history. You're part of that brotherhood, and just to win the Super Bowl. And I've known guys that played in the NFL just as long as I had that never went to the playoffs.
Wow.
So I know how hard it was to get to that moment, but not only get there, but also to get there and win. But it was just something no one can ever take from you.
So, do you have it? I got to see it. Can I see the ring?
Yeah, I can. If you want to hold on for one quick second,
I'll hold one quick second. Let you get it. All right, let's check it out.
So here we go. It was made by Tiffany and Company, but here it is.
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
So what was it like with playing with Eli Manning? He recently had his jersey retired with the Giants. What was that like playing with him?
Man, it was great, man. It's just from the history with him and his brother and his dad, and just being a great teammate, a jokester, prankster, funny guy. It was just, you realize how much work guys put in. And I think that's some things that goes unnoticed to, fans. I mean, they know, we practice, right? They know a lot, but, just seeing it every day, how hard someone works, and all the scrutiny, people go through in the media, whatever. You realize no matter what people say, man, you still come in and put that work in, for not just him, but for everybody, and I think that's one of the things that makes sportsmanship so great, even with your opponents, is that you realize how much work you have to put into this, like every day, year round, like literally no days off. You might not do something physically, but you're doing something mentally to get better. And you realize how much work a lot of guys put into this, man. And it's an appreciation, on both sides. And I think, just the testament of all the things he's done and him being able to get his jersey retired is awesome, well deserved, because I know how hard he worked through all those years.
What has been the impact of Hall of Famer Michael Strahan on your career as a player, but also as just as a person?
No, Stray was great, man. He's approachable, and he was definitely, he's a poster for the whole name, image, and likeness, branding. He attacks every day his post career as if he's playing football, right? He's just as effective, just as popular, at now than he probably, even was, playing football. And it's like he's the epitome of like, not just an athlete. There's more you can do. Sports doesn't run your life. I mean, guys are talented, multifaceted. We can do a plethora of things, man. And Stray is a face for that. And so he's encouraging to me, not just me, but other guys who really, making that mark into, social broadcasting, hosting, the whole entertainment side, and becoming a businessman, right? You can do all that while you still play, but it's the same thing we've been taught as athletes. In order to do that, you still got to sacrifice a lot, right? Mm-hmm. You got to be held accountable, and it's still great strides to be made, but you can do it if you put your mind to it. And he's the epitome of that.
Talking about off the field talents and passions and desires, if you don't mind, spend a little time talking about Mr. Robbins Neighborhood and where it came from, what it is, and where it is now today.
Yeah, well, Mr. Robbins Neighborhood is a nonprofit. It's just, when I was in New York, I used to go speak to elementary, middle, and high school kids, and they always say, Mr. Robbins, Mr. Robbins, you know what I mean? I'm like, look, hey, call me Fred, you know what I mean? But, I guess to them, Mr. Robbins just sound, more intriguing, but yeah, man. And so that's how the name came about, Mr. Robbins Neighborhood, from the kids I used to speak with. And I used to invite them to the games and, to come watch us play, to the practices or whatnot. And so the name kind of stuck. And then when I got home, I retired and I moved back to Pensacola. I look, man, what I always want to give back, because I realized how hard it is, for some of these young African-American males to pursue their dreams. And so I realized, the challenges, and I always wanted to give back. And so we started it, and it kind of like, look, hey, I'm not trying to kill your sports dream, but I also pretty much want to make you like the young Michael Strahans of the world. Like, sports is so hard. It's a numbers game. You can be the best and still there not be enough. But also let's open you up, right? Let me help you think about like exposing you more, because a lot of people here in Pensacola, it's people my dad's age in their 70s that never left Pensacola, and they got kids and grandkids. And so how are they able to tell anyone about life outside of this area they haven't even left? And so exposure was one of the keys that we wanted to kind of focus on. Of course, education, and also just alternate career paths. What can you do besides sports? If there was no sports, what else could you do? Right? Okay, let's learn how to do both. Right? And especially now with everything that's going on, how branding is so important now. Right? Okay, what else can you do besides tackle somebody? What else can you do besides score 10 points?
Yeah.
Because right now that's not enough anymore. Right?
Yeah.
It's not enough. And so every year it's always some challenges, and so that's what we embody in Mr. Robbins Neighborhood. We got people working around the clock, man, to help kids get the SAT scores up. We teach the whole etiquette, learning how to speak, learning what to or what not to do. We have a mentorship program. We just partnered with a local university here that will help us work with. I can't think of it on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, but we're doing a lot of programs here to kind of help kids prepare them for life outside of high school and even moving on to college.
So how can someone support what you guys are doing, Mr. Robbins Neighborhood?
Oh, they can just visit us on the web, mrrobbinsneighborhood.org. And they can sponsor, donate, even reach out to us. We want to take this thing, to multi-cities, because no matter where you are, people can always use this information. People can always, adapt this program and apply it to whatever's going on in their, city, area, community. And so that's where we just want to change lives.
So you've also, in your post-career, started training guys that are potential for the NFL. Kind of talk about that training that you're doing now for defensive linemen that are trying to get ready for the NFL draft.
Yeah, so when I retired in 2012, my agent had a couple of guys that were going to the Senior Bowl, and so they're like, "Hey, would you mind showing them, some techniques?" And so they were training down here at the Exos facility at Andrews Institute in Pensacola, in Gulf Breeze, Florida. I said, "Yeah, no problem. I can do that." And so Exos like, "Look, hey, we saw what you're doing with those guys. We want to do this, for all the combine D linemen, And so it was great because it kind of helped me get adjusted back into everyday life. It was kind of hard after I retired to really, find my way. I've been playing sports all my life, but it helped me stay around it, but out the game at the same time. And so I've been doing it for 12 years, and I had numerous first-round draft picks. I had a great group of guys. I love, teaching guys each and every year. And so it's been a pleasure of mine. It's been a great feeling just to teach and give back, and really just see what guys learn from you and see them applied on Sundays. So it's growing. The business is doing good. I'm looking for more opportunities. And so but it's going well.
So you were kind of humble about that. You said a few. How many first round draft picks have you worked with?
Well, I've been putting them out, man, every year. I had a couple years ago, I had 4 in the first round. I think I worked with about 12, probably 12 first rounders. So but it's fun. It's especially these guys are willing to learn because, and I know what it takes because I've been there, and I know that they listen to me, and so I can tell them like what to focus on, what not to focus on. And how to get better, and where I was. It's crazy because sometimes I look back, man, I was at that point, back in 1999, 2000, man, I was exactly where they were. So, it's fun for me and it's fun for them.
So I want to talk about your involvement at Wake, and what was it that got you back involved with supporting Wake athletics, and particularly the football program through the Deacon Club? How did that process start?
I just think just because I really, I think back in, I left Wake in 2000. I think the first time I was able to come back and just catch a game was I think it was after the Super Bowl, like 2008, 2009.
It was a basketball game.
Yeah, basketball game, I think. So it was like, wow. And sometimes you just don't realize how quick the time passes, And I was like, wow, last time I was here, was 8.5, 9 years ago. And just seeing, how Wake was different from when I left to where it is now. And I just think it's important, for guys to come back, because Wake really, for collegiate, I mean, that's where it all started for me. You know what I mean? Not just, my hometown, but Wake kind of helped elevate. Wake was a part of the process that got me to the NFL. If I didn't have everything I've learned and the people I've met and all the tools and resources I had at Wake Forest, I never would have made it to the NFL. And so I just felt that, I just owed it to Wake Forest, and something I always wanted to do. And now that I have the freedom, to do that, I mean, I think the more, as a young player, when you see older guys come back, it means something, right? It meant something in college, and it also meant even when I was with the Giants, Vikings, and Rams, you see like some of the old guys come by and check your practice out or hang around the facility. That means something, right? And that's how the growth and foundation gets started of a program. Guys have to come back. People have to come back and support, what really helped them. And so I felt it was important. I love being around the program. I think, what the past coaches have been doing, what Close have been doing now, I think is great. All the big time donors and Miss Shaw, Ben Sutton, Bob McCray, what they've done to help get our facilities tops and in the country. And now we're competing at a high level with anybody in the country. I think it just speaks one of them, not just football, but across the board. I mean, pretty much every sport, golf, field hockey, soccer, baseball, we're doing great, so I just think now we really in building on that foundation that really have been set, from years ago.
Well, now you've also made your support for Wake Forest as well, in addition to the Mitch Shaws and Bob McQuarries and those guys. That you've also have made your contributions as well, but you also have come back in your presence and serving in different capacities. What made you decide to start doing that and not just, saying, I'll just cut a check and won't get involved? What made you decide
Well,
to do that?
I'm more of a hands-on type of person. I mean, I really want to be hands-on involved, and I think that speaks to greater lengths. I mean, a lot of people, not able to really make that commitment. A lot of people have 1,000 other things they got going on in life, and but I just felt it's important for me. I mean, that's how I was raised. That's how I was built. That's what motivates me. It motivates me when I'm hands-on. I'm not the type to just want to show up for things and get the praise and the claps. I really want to be hands-on. I want to show people that I was there. I'm in the mud with you. We're gonna get through this together, and it speaks volumes because that's what's gonna take the move forward. So anybody I can inspire to do that, that's how growth starts. And if I can, help some athletes, current or former athlete, do that and keep their trend going. I'm all for it. But for me, I'm a hands-on person.
So I want you to talk about what your thoughts are when you see what is going on with the program now and the success that Wake is having and the way that Wake is having that success. Share your thoughts on, sort of the state of the program now.
I think the state of the program is going great. I think, from what, from what we've been through at Wake to what our program is now, it just speaks volumes, right? And the thing is, what I love about it is like, we're not satisfied, right? There's always room for growth. And even though we made tremendous strides, we still want to get better, right? We still want to, be better. And we're not satisfied and we're not content. And we're not thinking that, hey, we made it, we're here, we can chill and relax now. No, that's not like, I love the slogan this year from the football team, from good to great. We're tired of being good. Good is, it's okay, but we want to be great now. We want to be a great program. And I think we're making strides towards that, not just football, but all sports. And I think that the camaraderie that all the coaches have now, all the sports, it's kind of intertwined. Like, you see every sport supporting every other sport. Basketball coaches come to football games, volleyball going to the basketball, baseball going to the field, hockey. That's something like we really didn't see a lot when we were there, right? And so now it's like you see the progress for the relationships getting built, not just within football, but the whole community. Not just Wake Forest. Think the community now. You know what I mean? Only people wearing Wake Forest gear, and we were there were just Wake Forest people. I don't think the custodians of military, the campus police is even wearing Wake Forest. You know, but now you got, you know, people, you know, you got Wake Forest fans, you know, across Wake Forest, you know, groups on Facebook, you know, different social media platforms across the country. You know, people got Wake Forest stuff now. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
That's great, man. So Fred, I always ask our guests, what is your favorite Deacon moment off the field?
Off the field?
Off the field. That your favorite, that moment about Wake Forest, your Wake Forest experience that stands out, that's off the field. Now remember statute of limitations.
The most, the most fun, if I can relive any moments, it'll be after practice when we eating dinner in the pit. If I can go back and just hang out in the pit, right, after practice, you know, for dinner, you know, when we didn't have no class early on, so we can hang in the pit for a little bit longer, right? If I can have a couple of pit moments or a couple of gym jam parties, I'll be satisfied.
I love it, man. I love it. So can we count on seeing you at some of the games this season, even basketball games, stuff like that coming back?
I'll definitely be up for the next home football game, and definitely check out some more basketball games, and I'm looking forward to it. And we'll catch up too. It's always a pleasure, man, chatting with you, man. You know, I look and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you do, man, with this Deac2Deac and all your contributions and sacrifice and hard work that you make to make things grow. So can't thank you enough, too, my friend.
Man, appreciate that. So again, Fred, we got one last thing I wanted to ask you about. Talk about Daddy Bus for a second.
Oh yeah,
because I was flipping through Instagram and I came across your page. I was like, Daddy Bus.
Yeah, the Daddy Bus, man. Something me and the kids do on the way to school, man. You know, my kids they love music, they love to dance, they love to sing. So every now and again, we get on the Daddy Bus. I make videos, and it's just something that I want to make memories for them. You know, and I think they love that. And you know, some days the Daddy Bus be tired. You know, some days the bus driver be tired, but the kids, man, they keep you going. But it's fun, and it's just something that, you know, just being a dad, you know, just doing some fun things, something different with your kids, and it's something they love, and something that, you know, people get a kick out of, and just to brighten people's day. And I love it.
So where can they find Daddy Bus on Instagram? Let everybody know.
They can find on Mr. Robbins 98 at IG. Mr. Robbins 98 on Instagram. They can find the Daddy Bus videos, or Fast Freddy on TikTok. All the Daddy Bus videos.
Hey man, thank you again for taking the time out and sharing your story on Deac2Deac, man. Appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you, buddy.